When Breath of the Wild got announced, I was hyped. As hyped as I was for Twilight Princess. Turns out it's not the best sign for my love of a Zelda title when I'm hyped for it. Breath of the Wild, in my opinion, is a great game. But the second worst Zelda title released. Which means, yes, I'm putting it on one place with Adventure of Link. This game was nothing but a disappointment to me. Instead of holding its promise to be like the very first Zelda, it only followed half of what made the first Zelda game so special, and completely ignored the dungeons. Yes, we have the beasts, but come on, they are nothing more than 4 little tutorial dungeons compared to the other games. Yes, we have the shrines, but they don't feel like one big dungeon. They feel like very elaborated, bombable walls. Yes, we have Hyrule Castle, which feels most like a dungeon and has an amazing design, but lacks on puzzles. The dungeons of the original Zelda were nearly twice as big as the overworld. Dungeons always have been an important part of the franchise and Zelda formula. Just ignoring this part by giving you a huge world map that, in the end, was quite empty at places, didn't make up for it. And that's not all. The music was the worst I ever heard in a Zelda game, being way too silent and ambient for the majority of the game. The story was ripped in pieces, which messed up the storytelling, not very engaging, had a horrible weak characterization, and was way too soft. Take a look at Ocarina of Time. Ganon reigned for 7 years, we see a destroyed Hyrule City, and 3 dads walk around. Take a look at Majora's Mask. The Skull Kid woke havoc for a few days, and the whole world is at the edge of destruction, with several people already dead. And then take a look at Breath of the Wild. 100 years of Ganon's rage, and no re-deaths. No destruction outside of Hyrule Town. Even Darek mentioned that in 100 years, nothing changed and everything is as peaceful as ever. While this was probably meant to show how strong Zelda is for holding Ganon back, it came around as showing how weak Ganon is, how less of a threat he is. And it gave the feeling that you have all the time in the world to do whatever you want, because why even trying to save the day when the day isn't in danger at all? And it didn't help that the developers clearly put a lot of effort into the Zora region, story and characters, but didn't do the same for the rest of the races. It's clear that Zora's domain was meant to be the first area players should visit after Kakariko. The story leads to the Zora domain first, and looking at all those polls which beast players beat first, it's not a surprise that Varuta leads with 90% all the time. You encouraged the first Zora just by getting the tower of the region. You then were accompanied by Zidon until the village. Everyone spoke highly or lowly of you, giving you a direct connection to them. And then there's Mipha, who clearly is in love with Link. None of the other races has an equal treatment. It's like they put all the character development and engagement into the Zora, and then lost the interest on the other races. The Gorons are bland, the Ritu heavily underdeveloped, and while the Gerudo part is fun, with Riju being the second most developed champion substitute after Zidon, it just opens the question of why they didn't put more effort into the story and characters Link actually encounters 100 years after the main story happened. The most frustrating thing about Breath of the Wild is how easily it could have been fixed. A Link Between Worlds showed how easy it can be to allow complete freedom of where you go while still keeping the dungeons as they were. Add permanent items you find in or right before dungeons that help you solve the puzzles of said dungeons and fighting its unique boss, not just the same boss several times. And outside of the dungeon allows for easier mobility or additional ways to beat foes. A hookshot could have easily added to make some of the climbing parts easier, especially in rain. A steel hammer, as an item, not a breakable weapon, could be provided as a nice tool for mining and opening shortcuts on the overworld. You could have included rope arrows, a wind boomerang to easily harvest fruits from trees or plants from mountainsides, and so on. The story could have been told more engaging, just put some readouts in the Hyrule area to show at least some of the tragedies that befell the land. Let the races truly suffer due to Ganon's return. Why not replacing the bland bosses of the beasts with corrupted versions of the champions that you have to set free? Again, would have put way more weight into the story. And please, let us cook from the menu. And how about arrow crafting? Or a master sword that actually is a freaking master sword? Breath of the Wild showed a lot of great potential, and in itself is a great game. But it fails at being a Zelda game for reasons that could have been prevented. I just hope dearly hope that Nintendo will make better Zelda next time, and doesn't repeat the same mistakes because the game got 10 out of 10 ratings en masse, which honestly weren't fully deserved. I also hope that this miniseries showed how much of a deep love I have for the whole Zelda franchise, and that I rarely dislike a Zelda game, loving even the odd titles, which don't receive much love. And don't just hate on Breath of the Wild for any stupid reason, but I'm frustrated with it because of my love of the franchise and the expectations I have for a new installment of the series that Breath of the Wild just couldn't live up to.